call to order the regular Tilton Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, June 24th, 2014. Time being 6:31. Would have been 6:30 had the camera been ready, however, that was not the case. The first order of business is a review of proposed waiver provisions for inclusion in subdivision and site plan review regulations. And I think Dari just passed this out. I looked at it briefly and it looked like a very good idea for me, to me. And Dari, does this have to go on the ballot in March?
No.
This is something that we can enact?
Yes, I'll make sure we do. It will need to be noticed, so we can't like finish it tonight. I wanted to hand this out to get general approval or comments for changes.
I think it looks good nowadays.
I think it looks very good also. And I think you've included anything in it not being contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations of Tilton zoning ordinance of the Tilton master plan. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion on it?
Just curious that wouldn't this sounds pretty much like it should be standard. Was it something that should have been in all along and then just wasn't? Nobody could put it in.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I think the town has effectively been doing this. So in terms of, but yes, technically, it should be in, it must be in a site plan review, and it may be in subdivision, but I think it needs to, I mean, from a practical standpoint, planning board from time to time is probably going to need to waive the submission requirement on subdivision. So in that sense, it probably should be in there as well.
Yeah, it's just like a variance.
Yeah,
Looks good to me.
looks good to me as well. Do you want to do more work on it, or do you?
No, probably not. I'll probably just make sure it's properly noticed at an upcoming meeting, and the planning board can vote to, make that
The night
revision.
that it comes in, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we will
Like you said,
hold on to this.
effectively they've been doing it,
Right.
and
Yeah.
really, that's effectively a few times they haven't done it. That's the reason, a good reason for bringing it up.
Right.
So that somebody can put a finger on it and say, look here.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, and I think that's in, it's very easy, I think, as a town grows or whatever, to have things that should be in it omitted, and I think that we're very fortunate to have Dari here so that he can do some of the things like ask him in his spare time to do, is to look through and see areas where we do need to make changes or additions, or to include things. All right, the next order of business is to discuss the Main Street survey. Has everybody thought about that? And what we want to include in it, and who we want to include in it?
Why are we doing the Main Street survey? I wasn't here last meeting.
To-
I wasn't either.
You were here, honest.
Oh, I
Uh,
called Dari.
No,
Oh, all right.
but I think you were both here at the meeting where
Well, we discussed we were going to have it in a future one. Because we want to see what the merchants want and what we as a planning board want, what kind of information we want from them. In other words, what can we do to help them?
Right.
So that's why we thought if we gave them a survey and asked them to respond to it, that it would give us a starting point as to what we could do. And that's when we intend to have people come in who've had experience, like Jeannie and Alan's had experience next door.
But
The
if it's
people who
not-
started the Main Street program. You're going to say it's really not a function of the planning board?
If certain parts are,
Right.
and we need to work in tandem with a group that's
Yeah.
going to do that, but that would be
Yeah.
another committee, another Main Street type committee.
Yeah, but there's right now no plans to have another Main Street committee. And so therefore since we have a problem with the sign, which is a planning board issue.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And the planning board, the merchants seem to feel that they're being restricted because of the ordinance we're signing. So we thought that was a starting point. We might as well look at other issues that we could give to some other group, if there is another group.
Maybe this would spark, if we get all those people together, out of that
Yeah.
might come a subgroup of people
People
that say,
who would
okay,
be
let's
interested in it.
Would
let's
it,
do it.
would it make sense to have a meeting at which the merchants are invited to, before we put out the survey?
Well, we had a,
Because the information that goes in the survey is really things that they're gonna be interested in. So if we'll have a better chance of hitting it on the nose if we ask them ahead of time.
well, that's why we thought we would have a survey to ask them things that are interesting, give us some ideas. In other words, allow them to brainstorm on their own and come up with some suggestions. And then we as a planning board could look at those, then we could have a meeting. And as Judy said, maybe out of that meeting would come a group interested in the Main Street. Because right now, there's no group specifically interested in doing anything about the Main Street, which at this point in time is in pretty bad shape. There's things like the sign, not just the signs for merchants, but the signs on the lampposts that are, probably 15 years old and they're deteriorating. If you drive through Franklin, if you drive through Franklin right now, they have gorgeous plant hangers hanging on, we don't have anything like that. We used to have, when there was the Main Street program, planters in front of the buildings. One of the local merchants wanted to do that and they were told they couldn't do it. So, I mean,
Yeah,
we really need to
Told them they
get
couldn't do that, though.
Listen, we really need to get something going. And it just seems to me, because we had the meeting on the signage, because we've been concerned about the downtown merchants, that we might want to be the starting point or the impetus to get something else going.
Well, it's essentially, we're not separated from each other really, because you're talking about getting the information out to them so that they can get back to us.
Well, I think
That's exactly what
also,
I'm talking about.
I think also Lakes Region Planning, I know when Carmen Lorenz was the director, did a lot to offer programs to the Main Street merchants. I personally hand-carried some surveys that she had put together that were very good. She was going to have some small business meetings, and there didn't seem to be any interest. So I guess if we could get a survey to see what interests them. Obviously, they don't want people to help them with the economic parts of their business, which is what she was willing to do. How can we help them? Because I think we all who are in downtown Tilton a lot hear a lot of complaining about how bad Main Street is.
Is there gonna be a component of this that's focusing on things like design, not specifically what the merchants want, but what citizens might want as they out of downtown area, like a different feel, a better
That's what we talked about. When we have the meeting, it will be open to everybody,
Okay.
not just merchants,
okay, so it's gonna
to everybody.
yeah.
Because you don't hear from the merchants, but you do hear from people that don't come downtown. Well, why don't you come downtown? Well, because there's never a place to park. Well, because, so you need all of that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people involved in things, like one of the issues is parking, just to take as an example. And one of the reasons there's no parking is that merchants sometimes park there all day. We don't have, the budget does not allow for officers to enforce down meter maids. We had 2, I believe, and it was in the budget. That was cut out of the budget this year. And it was given back to the officers. And that, I am sure, no one has said this, and I'm maybe quoting out of school, but I'm sure that if you have a robbery someplace and an accident someplace, your last priority is going to be enforcing parking regulations in downtown Tilton or in the parking lots.
But if the merchants are gonna park in the main streets, and they're parking spaces in front of their stores, that's their decision. That's not our decision to bail them out or help them. That is a choice that they make that every morning consciously when they park their car. They have another place that they can park, but if they choose to park somewhere else, to park
We
in
have
front
a,
of their
we have a
business.
parking ordinance though, and they're in violation of that ordinance. And yes, they choose to, but if they choose to, it also opens them up to pay the penalty for that, because we don't have any enforcement, they just continue to get away with it.
But he's saying one of the penalties they're paying for that is lack of business.
Exactly.
But they're asking us to take time to bail them out when they're not helping themselves.
I don't.
There's three in particular that every time I come by it.
Hmm?
I always have to find a spot to park. So maybe the times that I go.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe you're willing to walk too. Well, I mean, there are lots of times I can't find a place to park on Main Street, but I park over the municipal lot. But I think the issue I've heard most from them is the way the downtown looks and the signage for their own shops. One of the things that interests me is that St. Bonnie's, has it been bought or is he
I don't know,
considering
I'm
buying?
sorry. I just, the term he was using was he had acquired this building.
Okay, so we don't know really whether he bought it or not. But I've always thought that could be turned into something really nice. And he was interested in coming to a meeting that we might have of everybody.
Is that really a function of the planning board, or would it be more of a function of the board of selectmen?
Well, it's not a function of either, really.
Can I mention what we talked about a little bit last time? We were toying with the idea that as the sort of like bearer of the master plan, the planning board would have some place in being a springboard for a program that carries out the goals of the master plan, and that a vibrant Main Street, contributes to a more active community, more walking, so healthier population, more options for shopping, and lots of elements of the master plan. So,
And Julie had actually pulled out of the master plan those sentences or those paragraphs where basically it put it in our lap. We used to have a Main Street program that was federally and state funded, and they took care of everything. They had an office downtown, they paid for putting the sign, ordered the signs, hung them up. They actually were the ones, I believe, Judy, and this was before my time, aren't they the ones that decorated Best Pocket Park initially? No?
Not when I was on.
Okay.
I was on it when it first started.
Okay. Okay, and they had a lot of funds. They had an office right down on Main Street. They had a full-time, I believe the first person was full-time. They hired somebody who actually operated it. But that's gone by the wayside. Their vestige is still around, like the planters that were moved last year when they were no longer being, plantings were no longer being put in it. The placards that are hanging down to say Town of Tilton. So, I mean, I guess the planning board needs to be concerned about the health of the town. And I think that this falls under that. And I mean, we can sit back and do nothing, but is that what we want to do as a planning board?
I don't think it's that we don't want to do anything. I just want to make sure that we're putting our efforts towards the right thing.
Well, our efforts basically are to get a survey out to see what they're interested in that hold the meeting. And, a lot can come out of that. If we have people, for instance, one of the people who's coming is somebody who was a former town administrator who worked in, I believe in Meredith, was that Meredith when they redid the whole Main Street in Meredith. To get ideas like that. And it might be that we would turn around. One of the people that I'm trying to get to come is a person who works with riverfront towns, and she's the Brownfield programs. And they offer grants. And there may be some grants available to do some work.
Well, one of the difficulties we had on Main Street, so we actually had renderings of every building, every storefront being redone. And we had grant money available to assist the owners in, or we have owners that don't necessarily live in town. They weren't interested in putting the time or money into it.
And that's still a problem. I mean, some of the places I believe are even bank owned at this point now.
I don't know who has the renderings now. They were done up very nicely, how each building could look redone. And we had even contracted with Billy Lawrence to get all the paint, and the grant program was gonna pay for it. But then the out-of-town landlords don't wanna do anything, which leaves the poor store owner can only do so much.
Yeah.
Is the majority out of towners?
And so right now,
I think a lot of the owners own huge blocks. Well, huge blocks you can own in Tilton, but I think they're in that block, we're starting with this Zumba place down to the end of that block. I think there are two owners that own that. I think one of those owners is the bank. Because I think it was the first few buildings were foreclosed on.
yeah, I don't know if anyone's bought that or not.
I don't think anyone has bought that. And then the other one, Canoa owns the others. And then there's the church. And there's the Cupcake. I don't know who owns that block. Do you? The bank building's for sale down at the end. The bank building, I mean, ideally the bank building would be a great place to do something like is in Concord, where they have, where you walk in and there's all the little shops. I've not been in that bank, but you know, I would think that it would be. You've probably been in there, haven't you? It probably would lend itself to having little cubbies of different vendors. I don't know. But those are the kinds of things I think maybe we would get out of, that we would get out of having
Grab something
a
to
survey,
go
yeah.
to town. So right now, you don't have much to go to town. Why did they even come here?
And I would hope that the citizens, and I say citizens because it's not just the merchants that we plan to invite to the meeting, would be somewhat creative. I would hope they wouldn't just continue to complain about the empty Main Street. But if we put out a notice, I would hope it could be something to come to the meeting, that it would be something that would encourage people to come and not just have them say, oh, just it's another thing. I don't know how we can word that either. Well, you can't say that though in a, you know.
Help us help you.
Well, it's not just, I mean, my concerns about the downtown is not just the merchants either. I mean, that's a concern, and that's basically what started it. But I think in terms of like the master plan, we've got to think of all the taxpayers in the town, and you know, why don't they come downtown? I mean, I'm downtown a lot because I eat at Polly's a lot, but
Other than that,
yeah, other than that, I don't. And there was a time I did. There was a time when I came downtown when this whole block had a lot of interesting little shops in it. And there are probably some of you who don't even remember that, but there was a time when the Main Street was fairly vibrant, I think.
Because we have 4 tattoo parlors.
And we have, you know,
They were nice
20,
guys, actually.
and we have 20, yeah, we have 20 nail salons now, or hairdressers or whatever. Then that certainly doesn't, it may attract a certain group of people to downtown, but I don't think that's even the case anymore. I mean, people used to get their hair done every week and then they do their shopping downtown. That doesn't happen anymore. So let me ask it this way. do we want to make a questionnaire to get a survey to give to downtown? Or do we want to have a meeting and from that meeting come up with a survey?
Like have somebody write down, have like a listening session and write down.
Yeah, I mean, we could actually have, we could have a board and post different things. I don't know, do you have any ideas?
It's a chicken and, it's sort of that, which came first, the chicken or the egg. We're trying to get started here, and we decided we didn't want to start with a meeting until we did a survey. And now we're talking about not wanting to do a survey until we do a meeting.
We didn't want to do a meeting where we had people get up and,
Yeah,
give,
I'm not,
you know,
yeah.
that sort of thing.
I'm just trying to sort of, summarize the situation, and I think, it's a good question. It's one thought I had was to try and maybe, for me, to go, between now and our next meeting, to bring, compile surveys that other Main Street, that have fed other Main Street projects. And also, it seems something that might be worth me spending some time on is, it sounds like, maybe the ideal situation was that the planning board is a springboard for this and another body takes it on. Another way of thing is, right now, it could be that I'm the one doing it. It's not the planning board doing this, but that I am, and that the planning board is, I've been in this town 3 months now, and that it would be senseless for me to go forward with, all this stuff without the advice of the planning board. So I think we can rest somewhat, or not worry too much that the planning board is spending its time in a way that it shouldn't be.
What about Lakes Region Planning? Do you think they would be a good resource for you and for us?
Yes, I do believe Mike Izzard recently did some survey work with the town of Bristol, and they've been, they put a lot of effort into their Main Street, their downtown recently, so that might be a real good resource. So maybe that's the way to go. I think we're all a little bit nervous about the idea of having a meeting and excluding someone, excluding the wrong people. So maybe individual board members having conversations with people is a good way to get started. And me having conversations with as many people as possible. And then me compiling those surveys from other towns and allowing you guys to pick through and say, oh yeah, we should definitely ask that. We need to focus on that and get some ideas from that.
How does that sound?
I think we should have a meeting first, because why put the money out for a survey if you don't have the interest? And you'll know whether you have any interest at all if you have a meeting.
Well, we know we have an interest because we had the meeting on the signage, which was,
That was not well attended.
well, there were quite a few people here, I thought, from downtown.
We can do a survey for free, I will say.
The survey won't be
Or Google.
Just bring it out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's not an issue.
Yeah, we definitely don't have to spend money on it, other than my time.
I just don't want to have a meeting that turns into a free-for-all, and unless we plan things carefully, it will turn into a free-for-all.
Could be,
I think the survey will help us see, because we may be thinking signage, and maybe it's not an issue anymore, and it could be parking.
it's true.
It could be, the trees.
The trees, I was just gonna say the trees.
Yeah.
Our Christmas lights still up.
They are.
They're 4th of July lights.
Okay.
I'm gonna go around this week and change all the bulbs.
They're
to the
early.
white and blue.
They're early.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question, but there's some real concern about downtown with the tree situation. It was something we did a few years back that we thought was going to be a nice thing, and it's turning out that the trees are more bothered than they're worth, really, to the people that are affected by it.
And we have some merchants who have done something with some of their storefronts. There are others they haven't. But, I think that would be, I would think a good place to start would be with Lakes Region Planning though. Because I know main streets are something that they are involved in. I think that
There's still a lot of viable Main Street programs running too. Even though the federal dollars dried up, they kept them going. So there's
With local
different ones you
money?
can talk to.
Okay.
There's still active Main Street communities in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Obviously, this is not one.
You know, our signs,
Huh?
the sign over by the bridge says Main Street Community.
Well, that's because that's in all the towns that were, you know, that's, and there's also, we couldn't get that money, but there is that money.
Ask Billy if he knows where those renderings went.
Yeah. I'll ask Billy if he has any idea where they went. So I will check with Billy on that. And Billy might be a good person to get something started with too. I don't know that. I'll talk with him about that.
He's
What-
always been extremely involved.
I know he was. That's why if I could just, you know, talk with him and see if he would be interested in spearheading something like that. Because I'm sure Lakes Region Planning would work with anybody who was doing it. But that's something you can find out and we can discuss it further at the next meeting. Everybody agreeable to do that?
Yeah.
Is everybody agreeable to the fact that it is something that we should at least start, be the seed to
Yeah,
get something moving on it?
Before the town dies, gotta do something,
It's
nobody else
it's
is moving.
cyclical. You've been here long enough. Over the years, it'll grow big, it'll grow big. It's a cyclical thing down there.
Well, how about have it grow and not fade,
That would be nice.
you know? Really.
Not when the economy went, it's tough to run the businesses down there.
Yeah, but look at the rest of the country. Some people have really survived and others.
But, you know, fresh coat of paint on something, makes it a little spruce about them. Just, you know, a fresh coat of paint on something will make it look nice. You know?
Well, in the buildings, the two buildings on the corner there, I'm not talking the brick building, the old Joanna Oliver building, I'm talking the first two buildings. He spent a lot of money painting the exterior of those and doing David Townsend's two buildings. And he's given the one up initially, but he painted, he had signed, you know, he had a carpenter, he made sure he was following the laws of the town and doing it, the zoning laws and doing the painting and the signage that he did there.
I mean, even, I mean, it sounds stupid or silly, I don't know, but even those flags, take them down, they look trashy.
They do.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do.
It doesn't
Take them
help.
down, maybe, I mean, they're not that expensive, get some, you know,
Talking about the butterfly signs or?
whatever they are.
The banners.
The banners that are on the telephone pole, I mean, they flatten them, I mean, you
They're
talk.
tacky, that's the best word for them, they're
But
very
take
tacky.
them down,
Yeah.
you know, then everyone goes, oh, they're gone, you know, then maybe do a fundraiser to new ones, or maybe the town can find some money to get some new ones, or,
Well, the ones in Franklin, it was the school kids who did the pictures and then they put them up.
yeah, I mean, you know, just do something, you know. It's just something, I mean, you just drive through it, I mean, that, if you wanna talk about something that drives your eye, those flags.
Yes.
They'll drive, you know, because they're flapping the breeze
And that's what the merchants want them to do.
but they don't,
No, we're talking the telephone, but
Oh,
not
oh,
their,
okay, all
not
right.
not
those
that,
kind
not
of
their,
things.
I'm talking about the
I
ones
mean,
that.
the Tilton town, Tilton.
Yeah, they just, they look like crap.
Nobody likes those. Sounds like.
Well, they're,
They didn't want.
Let's spruce them up.
First things you do know.
they look nice when they were new.
It's short money, it makes it,
And one of the first Main Street program meetings I went to, because I used to be on that committee too, when it was dwindling and dying real quickly, was that we were gonna get new signs, and it never happened.
when I keep hearing that, there's money still in some Main Street.
And we
accounts.
can't get it, we can't touch it, it has to go to a 501c.
But can't they just spend it on the signs?
They don't exist anymore.
We'll give them to, YAP and pay 501c and they can buy the signs. No, they didn't buy YAP.
Yeah, but Yap isn't just Tilton, so. All right, I think we've killed that. If you want to check on that, we'll go on.
Of course.
The next thing is the review the June 10th, 2014 minutes. Did everybody get the new minutes? And I just want to say one thing. I look over the minutes and I look at them to see if there's any corrections or anything, and I'm not real, I don't spend a lot of time saying, oh gee, was this in here, was that in here, unless it was something I had said that got misquoted, and I don't wanna speak for anybody else, but I think sometimes that's a tendency for people to do. And, you know, Dari said he probably left some things out. Let's make sure that we include anything, because those have to be on file forever. And I know, I've been on the planning board long enough to know that there are times we have had to go back and look at minutes, and it's been pretty frequent. I can think of, remember when the Cropsey Riverfront Park, I spent a couple of days in here going through minutes. I go online and check minutes for other committees, so it's real important. They officially are legal documents once they're on file. So let's make sure that they're thorough, and I know I'll do a better job from now on making sure that everything's in order. So if we all are just conscientious in doing that, I think it would help all of us, and certainly those who come after us. So with that, let's review the June, I'm sure they will. Let's review the June 10th minutes.
Make a motion to bring it forward for discussion.
Second? All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
The only thing that I thought was in the planning board, the continuation, should we make a reference to the date that they referred to be continued to? Oh, never mind. I was reading the agenda. Never mind. That was quick. Yeah. Sorry. Never mind.
This way, I had two little kids screaming in my ears, so I don't think I found anything. I did. I lost it.
Any discussion on,
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain? Judy has to abstain, she wasn't here. You said you weren't here.
I wasn't here either, but I read the minutes.
You have to abstain because you weren't here, so you don't know when.
I abstained.
You don't know if they're accurate.
Two abstentions.
We're not telling them what we were doing.
None of
Just
their
two
business.
things,
Just have them all full.
have you, we talked last, in these minutes, and I think this is what there was additions to. It said that if the town wants to ensure it has an opportunity to review driveway permit applications, and provide comment prior, that some dialogue may be necessary with DOT. I would think that would be appropriate for you to have that dialogue.
Okay. Yep.
So in your spare time.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Well, they come to you.
Doesn't have spare time.
You see them.
Yeah, they come, I mean, I think usually
Sign it.
No, we just have,
Catherine Wisner is the first to see them.
okay.
And then she gives me a copy, so yeah, I'm sort of the
Well,
first in the
but
planning.
Catherine is the administrative assistant really to the selectmen, not,
Right.
and that's why she gives it to you.
Right, right.
And that way, if you do that prior, it won't be a situation where, like tonight, I gave you two to check into before we talk about them,
Mhm.
because I know they're gonna cause, there's gonna be some questions.
Yeah, another thought I had was that perhaps I talked to Al about the possibility of raising the question of whether the town should require a building permit for a driveway.
Don't we have a driveway permit already?
We do have a driveway permit.
So then, why aren't, do we really, why aren't we getting our own internal notification on all of these?
We are, But this is a state road, the ones, I think that
Oh,
was.
right, there's
These
a
are
drive,
the
right,
ones
right.
that are state roads,
So,
okay?
yeah, I guess, thank you. Yes, so there's a driveway permit if you're coming off a town road.
Right.
But no town driveway permit if you're coming off a state
Right,
road.
well,
Should there be one required?
there is a permit, but it's with DOT, not with us.
Well, should there be a town permit required for a driveway coming off of a state road? Because if you look at our definition of a building, a driveway, I think, is a building. And they're building on
It's a
town.
structure,
Yeah, or something, yeah, I forget which, yeah,
structure, I think.
And it's
Okay.
in our town,
yeah.
it has some kind of say.
I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm
We're
not,
gonna be able to
pro-
overstep the state, that's,
it winds up being another level of administrative burden.
On
which
you.
Obviously, we're not generally in favor of, but, I mean, we'll know on the applicant too, but in this case, where we don't feel like we're able to keep a proper eye on things,
well,
maybe that's the option, but certainly I can start by talking with DOT and seeing if.
I don't really think that we can't keep a proper eye on it. We get a notification of it. I mean, I don't know of any situation, maybe somebody else can enlighten me, where the state has allowed a driveway or, I mean, I think they're pretty strict on it. I mean, for instance, if you look at, what's the, it's Shiloh's, they, we're gonna make them put a second, entrance in. If you look at the Dollar General store, they weren't gonna let them, they made them do what they have to do now, which is really hurting their business.
No.
And the only way they could avoid that, the state said, was that you've gotta put in a turn lane, which people don't wanna do, because it's very, very costly.
And you walked in, go figure.
So I can't think of a situation where the state has really screwed up. Can anybody else?
I think there was some concern on that some of those permits were for Caleb Hill Road, and there were concerns of sheeting the water, especially in the wintertime, and freezing the ice and things like that.
No, the concerns were for the Tilton outlet. That's where the concern came up, wasn't it?
No, that was, they were just paving the driveways, I think they were just letting.
Right. I think you might not have been at that, anyway, but you're right, that was one time, I
Yeah.
think there've been more than one, where someone expressed concern, because, you were there, actually, you definitely were there. Remember Catherine was saying, what do they do, and she asked me to follow up on it, and you were
Yeah.
right, you were saying, I think they're just resurfacing,
Right.
but,
But I thought there was a permit that went in on Caleb Hill Road at the last meeting, and that was where some of the discussion came.
there was a lot of discussion following that.
Because of
Yeah,
sheeting
you're
of the
right.
water across the road.
Right. And that's when it came up again, and that's this, yeah, exactly, that's this discussion captured here, but it did come up, several meetings back when, and that's when I first. So here you're seeing where it came up with the Caleb Hill Road, but you also see, Mr. Sasan said that the DOT, if that's when I previously talked to DOT, was after that,
Yeah.
Tanger thing, yeah.
And that's where I gave you those and said, check with the DOT and let's see before we bring them up again.
Right, okay. I'll follow up on it.
And I think the concern about the Caleb Hill Road is that's gonna be our road pretty much eventually, because they're doing the work on it.
I think that's presumptuous.
You do?
I do.
I agree.
There's no support for that upstairs,
Okay.
no matter what the state says. We're working on it. Think I'm I didn't know Catherine wasn't coming.
Rough week.
Yeah.
All right, so next is to review the July meeting schedule.
So we have our July 8th meeting scheduled, and there will be, and then over the next few days, these will be available on the website, 3 site plan review applications. And then on the following week, several of you have expressed that you'd be able to come to a planning board meeting, a special meeting, and that would be for another site plan review. And that is something that would be, the same case would be before the ZBA, just an hour before that. So that's, if you folks can kind of write that down and remember that there's a set.
And there's been some, and I'll bring up
So
the
there's
elephant.
7, 8.
I'll bring up the elephant in the room. There's been some controversy about us having that extra meeting because it involves Tilton School and their athletic field. And that's partiality. And I guess my feelings on that is that we would do it for any other person who came to us and asked us to do that.
And have.
It is not, yeah, have in the past. It is not our intention to stymie any business or any resident from getting what they want done. So I have no problem with us having a special meeting if we can have a quorum, and I guess that's the issue. And I think so far it looks like we will have a quorum.
Yeah,
What was the date again?
the 15th.
You were the first, I was the first one to
Yes, you
respond,
were.
and then you did. So,
got the
I know
date
you wrote
already.
it down.
I
Okay.
think Eric, Joe, Juliet, I think you said you could come
Yep.
maybe, yeah.
I mean, there's on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
so
like 7.
I'll check with the ZBA. I mean, I'll have to set these meetings, in stone in the next few days anyway to get proper notice out. But I'll check with ZBA and make sure that 7 is, gives them enough time.
And this may be another meeting, I'll just forewarn everybody, it may be another meeting like the logging one that we had where the room is filled with the butters and with other people. And I think it might behoove all of us to drive by the location and see, because one of the things they brought up to Dari was that the field is very low. So it may sound like these huge things going up to the heavens, when in fact it may be far different, and they have the plans, and we'll have an opportunity to see that.
For the school?
Yeah, it is, the field is going to set very, very low.
Where's the location of that? Is it behind the school?
No, the school up where, the old Lawrence
I'm
property.
pointing in the wrong direction, but
I may be too.
Yeah.
this way,
I don't know, whatever way.
this way, that way.
The old Lawrence property, I'll keep my hands down. I always point the wrong way. I do know where West Main is, and the only reason I know where West Main is because Judy lives in West Main.
There you go.
That's how I know where
Well,
West
Main
Main
is.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
But he knew where you meant,
Yeah,
so
you
he's
can know
just
exactly where,
giving you crap.
where I'm.
Go by every
Okay.
day, so.
All right,
How do you
so,
really feel?
Who, me? Oh, come on, you know I'm outspoken.
while we're on that too, I don't know whether July, the second meeting, is that going to be the second meeting in July as opposed to?
Yeah, there isn't a regularly scheduled second meeting in July, yeah.
Then in August, will you put down to try to schedule, Jason Stock?
Yep,
Yeah, that'd be really nice. to
we
be able to-
do have probably 2 applications.
Well, I'm gonna talk about that when I get to the correspondence, because they're in there. Oh, 2 applications for,
Yeah, site plan review,
Yeah.
I think. Somebody just called me about something.
well, you have the man that wants to put the floor shop down in that place that I see as an issue.
That'll be July 8th,
Okay,
actually.
all right.
But August, there's one thing that's already in the works, and another I just got a phone call on just hours ago. So, but yeah, I'll talk to Jason definitely.
And I will mention that, we've had the one client who keeps putting us off and putting us off and saying, can you reschedule?
Yeah.
And I think when he comes in, you'll be very pleased to see he has not just been twiddling his thumbs. I was here when his revised plans came in, and they're quite extensive, quite extensive.
Good.
So he has been doing
Well
something
done.
worthwhile and not just putting us off in the way we thought he might be doing. So I just thought I would throw that in. Okay, next thing is, anything else on July meeting? Any other comments?
No, just again, keep an eye out for more information in the upcoming days about the July 8th and upcoming week or so about the July 15th. But yeah,
There's
thanks,
no meeting on
thanks
the
everyone for
22nd.
getting back to me quickly on that.
There's no meeting on the 22nd.
Right.
Is anybody aware of what's been going on Clark Road?
Well, they're gonna repave it and raise it 8 inches, I know that.
They're knocking trees down, not knocking parts of the walls,
Yeah,
brick walls down.
Yeah.
And,
The plastic.
they're blasting.
yeah.
And they started seriously taking trees out today.
Well, I went by and saw that rock wall out in the middle of the road the other day, across from Janice's. Yeah. Okay, correspondence. We have 1, 2, 3 intents to cut.
To cut?
Yeah.
You have any trees left in this town?
And you know, the letter went out, as Joyce is sending it out, based on what we had talked about it being noticed, so that we aren't surprised by something coming up like the one on School Street. So one of them is a piece of property on Pest House Road. The other one is, I'm not sure where this. Let's see. Let's see. One of them is the Pest House Road. One of them is Autumn Drive. Autumn Drive? Yeah, and this is the one that I believe starts in Samberton. It's the road off. If you go through Samberton Center and you turn onto 132, just before you turn onto 132, there's a road that goes up.
Perkins Road.
It's Perkins, yeah, Perkins Road, and that connects with Autumn Drive. It's in that area. And I believe you said there are wetlands according to the map on that. But anyway, everybody's been noticed. Everybody's been sent a letter saying that, you know, they have to comply with all of the state. The third one is one that we need to keep close. I don't know what to say about it.
Yeah.
We all had, we had someone come in and talk to us about the fill-in property at 149 School Street. Well, he's put in for another intent to cut. And we're just curious as to what is going on there.
Yeah.
Is that the same,
Yes.
Yeah.
same lot?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's the same owner,
Same
same
address.
street. It doesn't actually say 149, I don't think, maybe it does. But yeah, it must be the same spot. You know, we had heard word that there was some DES involvement. I don't know what came of that, so.
Is it a different logger? Do they have a logger?
No.
No, it's the same logger. And my concern is that when I went to the Conservation Commission meeting, we were warned by Ben Wadley about this particular logger and the issues that had been caused in the past. And in addition to that, we did, and I think you received it too, a whole list of violations that this particular logger had lodged against him with DES, and that was a Conservation Commission. Kathy Mitchell sent us that information. And it was extensive, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of how he's been fined and things that he has done. So, you know, I think we need to keep an eye on that. And I don't know how people are going to respond, the abutters are going to respond to that, because they were pretty vocal, and I thought we handled it very well that night, and that they felt comfortable, and that his presentation made them feel comfortable. But now, all of a sudden,
Flames?
I'm bringing that up. I mean, if I were in a butter and I saw that happening, I would be real concerned too.
Well, because promises were made
Yeah.
that night and not kept.
Yeah.
so.
So let's just make sure we're on top of that. The next thing is just a zoning board of adjustment decision. They did give permission to Granite State Credit Union, I believe they wanted to make their sign larger, and they did give them permission to do that.
How much larger?
Not much larger, I'm just saying. 30 feet larger, but 30 feet can be
All around.
all around, you know, so that's,
30 square feet.
yeah, no, he doesn't say that.
Yeah, it, well.
For a 76.5 foot sign pertaining to the Granite State,
Square foot.
yeah.
Was there any explanation of why they granted the variance?
Hmm.
There's very specific criteria. It's not, oh, you can have a bigger sign.
Well, I'm sure it went before the zoning board and they ruled that they could, so if you need to go and look at the zoning board
I
notes,
will.
okay?
I can definitely fill you in
Okay.
on how it went if you
Yeah.
want, or I can brief the entire board right now.
No, that's all right.
Well,
If they're not concerned, I want to find out because sometimes I think they don't pay any attention to the criteria. They just granted, well, bigger sign, what the hell?
Yeah.
So,
Well, my experience is depends on who you are. Very
I don't know if it's like that, but I just want
A
to
lot of
be
times it
curious.
is, I think it's like that.
They're not in the middle of town, so it's not so bad.
Well, I think they're a pretty responsible customer too. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say, and again, we can talk more about it if you're interested, but the other signs, and it's very much in keeping or less, out there than, sorry, I'm stumbling through. Basically, it's very much in keeping with the signs that are already there with budding businesses. In fact, it's less.
That already have variances.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe, I'm not sure, I wasn't here when those signs were approved, but.
Okay, and the last thing I have, and I asked Dari to make everybody a copy of this.
Have you
This
another
is-
copy there?
Oh, I'll make you one, yeah.
This is extremely, I found this extremely interesting. It sort of came up because we had a little controversy at the last meeting about why the RSAs were in place. And, my idea was it was to protect the landowner, and somebody else's idea was it was to protect the logger, and I was really looking into it because the lawyer had stated that it was to protect the resident. This is extremely interesting. It's really to protect our environment. It's more than anything else, it's to protect our forestry. It's to protect the landowner so he can make a living by selling it. And one of our board members printed on Facebook recently the statistics on the amount of forestry in New Hampshire. And it was interesting because it goes into this, and I just found this, I think Dari got sick of hearing me talk about this stuff. This is one of the best documents I've seen in a long time. It goes into the history of the industry. It talks about the fact that at one point in time, when there were no regulations whatsoever, our forestry was just down to almost nothing. Goes into the percentages, and it went down to let's see, what did it even say? I think it says here at the very beginning, but I can't find it now that I'm looking for it. But it's now up to 84%. That's 4.8 million acres of forestry we have. It talks about how this is beneficial to the landowner to be able to, get a living from the logs, the timber, how it benefits the towns. It goes into current use law. It goes into all the forestry laws. It goes into all the RSAs, and there are quite a few RSAs. There's one even determining the stumpage value, which is where the towns get their money from that. It's just a really, really good piece of information. So, at your leisure, don't read it like it was my reading to go to sleep at night for a couple of nights. But maybe that's why I fell backwards. I've been reading this too much. But it shows all the forms that are necessary for the loggers who come in, some of which we have seen. It talks about things, and I said to Dari, There's something called Basal Area Law, which is RSA 227-J:9. And I'm even wondering if this guy up on School Street is violating that, because that's one of the things he was fined for in the past.
The
And-
logger or the resident?
The logger. The logger. The resident is just trying to get some money, extra money. He has land, he has not been able to sell the land. And,
I kind of know a little
you know,
history on that, so.
Okay. It talks about all of the law, all of the different organizations, like the DES, the forestry, that do everything they can just to protect the environment, and they get involved in it. And that's why I think, the attorney just said, our wetlands permit is just another protection. It doesn't really interfere with the RSAs or anything, so. They didn't seem to think it was a problem. So, you know, at your leisure, just look through this. It's a very
You
good
should
document.
definitely look through it.
Be
You
sure
know
to.
something about it with
Right.
that.
Well, I think
Gentlemen
coming back in,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly. Because I said to Dart earlier, it's almost like he came in once and he now is coming in again, because he told us specifically that we weren't gonna rape the whole area, they were gonna leave all the timber, and, you know, he came in and he did what, about 1,000 pieces, and I think that's about what he has here, so maybe he's gonna come in every 2 weeks and do it, so, I don't know
When's he
that, but
coming
it's,
in again?
he's coming in, the July.
8th or
July
15th.
8th.
What, for our planning board
Yeah.
meeting? I mean,
He won't come in unless there's an issue that,
we don't know. I mean,
he's put the intent to cut. And that's all he's done so far.
I mean, it's his job to file file an application for a conditional use permit if he needs it. If he doesn't file one, we're not necessarily gonna hold a hearing for it. We're not gonna schedule a hearing for it. We may, the town may have to take, action. You know, I can't speak to that at this point, obviously.
But that's why we put the little extra step in, so that when Catherine gets it, it goes to various people, and there's some idea. We don't even, I'm sure he'll use the same crossing, which is
You
wetlands.
think? Yeah, right.
But, you know, the state checks for buffers, and I'm sure this will probably flag the state too, because they have had problems. We don't know the outcome of the last visit, but we do know that both forestry went there and had a fit because of what he was doing, and contacted DES, I believe,
Odd,
and
yeah.
DES made a visit. So we don't know what the outcome of that was.
Sure
But
will.
that was after.
We should soon now, right?
Mhm. Sure, they say something.
Well, I don't know whether you can go on the website. The only thing maybe we could do is go on the website and see what was, it wouldn't be something we would be noticed of.
No.
I thought there was actually gonna be a phone conversation between Al and, the representative from DES who went and visited the site.
Well,
don't
I
think
asked
that ever
Al,
happened.
and Al's comment to me was nothing came of it.
Oh,
So I don't know what that means.
Yeah, right, I don't know if that means he never heard back from her, or he did hear back from her and she
He said it was all
absolutely.
okay. That's what Al said to me when I
Okay.
questioned it.
Okay,
So you might want to pursue that further.
okay,
And I can go in on that website too.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Actually, you might want to forward to the rest of the board that letter that Kathy sent on,
Sorry.
Kathy Mitchell sent
Oh.
you,
Okay,
okay, it's all the violations he's had in the past.
That would be a good thing.
Yeah,
All right.
that would be good frame of reference.
Brush up on this, yeah.
And I did get the revisions that Kathy Mitchell is gonna recommend to the update of the master plan. And there's one little wording that she and I both have to agree on before I present it to you guys. And then she included some tables that are good, and I'll have that for the next meeting. Give one to everybody so we can okay that.
Madam Chair, might I suggest that Mrs. Mitchell, as well as the rest of the Conservation Commission, should be invited to the meeting on the 8th or whenever this guy comes?
yeah, you
We
may not
don't
come.
even know whether he's coming or not, okay? And I am in touch with Chuck and Kathy on that, and right now, they know what we have put into place, and they're happy with that. So unless it's something that we, as a planning board, refer to the Conservation Commission, they don't need to be involved, okay? I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have anything else?
Did somebody close that place down there on the left-hand side going towards Franklin that was selling all that stuff in that building, by the school buses?
The yard sale house?
He was
Yeah.
sent a cease and desist, told he had to get a site plan last year,
Yeah,
because he had a business there. Then he did not run it this winter, so I think he's going under the auspices of, it's a yard sale.
well, he was closed, but he was open, was it last week, I think it was. The whole place was wide open, I'm like, I know
What, the
it's not
place on the
supposed to
right
be
or the place on the left?
On the left.
Going up,
Towards
okay.
Franklin, yeah.
Right before my house.
Right, just before
Yeah.
your house, yeah. He's open now, because
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I didn't see
I
him
don't,
open
I'm not
last
sure he
night.
ever closed down.
Well, he did have it covered though, he had it all covered. For a while there, during the day, it was covered, so I thought, oh, well, maybe they got to him, you know, but I thought sure that he was told that he couldn't do that.
but he was sent a letter and said, I think he's gonna try to sneak in under the, it's just a yard sale, it's not a business, even though there's signs up there that say it's a business.
Yeah, it's a pretty big yard sale, you know, really.
This weekend, must have been Sunday, whatever day this weekend, when all the fire trucks were screaming by, we had to get the police down there to move the cars off the side of the road. Because it's got cars parked on both sides of the road, you get all these emergency vehicles trying to get to the hospitals.
That may be something you want to mention to Al.
Uh,
It's at West
yeah.
Main, on
Yeah,
West
I was
Main
gonna
Street.
say, I'd encourage anyone to, contact Al and stuff like that, but I'll certainly pass that along.
Yeah, Al said I already sent him a letter last fall.
Yeah.
And it is
But if
Al.
he's not, if Al sent someone a letter and they're not observing what they were supposed to do in the letter,
Al loves that stuff.
I know he deals with it. That's for sure.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
What are they putting behind the shed at the senior center?
That's John Bernard's
I don't know
little,
what it is, but I know who it is, but what is it?
it's a little mini mall type thing. He's gonna have, what, a deli and,
What happened to the walkway that we gave the easement for?
Right, that's supposed to go in for the chiropractor.
Basically, right where that building sits. When I saw him digging the stuff up and down, they put it in the walkway. You can't put a walkway through a building.
Yeah,
just
that needs to
saying.
be
Oh,
looked
I
into.
know
I-
that is.
Because
But
that's
he's
part
not-
of his,
I think he's gonna be closer to our fence, and he didn't take that whole area down, because I was looking at the last Friday.
Just,
I'll look again I'm going out there this Friday.
yeah, and they had the hoe digging out behind the building. There's not a lot of space between the building and us. Now, I know we're pretty well. He's still got space, but the more he undermines that hill,
I agree with that. That's what, when I looked at it, that's what bothered me, was undermining the hill.
well,